Hey everybody, welcome to Reflections, the wisdom of Edgar Cayce. We're coming to you courtesy of our broadcasting partner, moretalk.tv. Joining me on the show today is Kim O'Neill. Kim O'Neill is a renowned medium and channel for over 28 years. Kim was voted Houston's top psychic. She demystifies the spiritual world through her private sessions, award-winning books, national workshops, and online classes. Kim has appeared on over 100 radio stations and television programs and has been interviewed in numerous magazines and newspapers. Her books include How to Talk with Your Angels, The Calling, My Journey with the Angels, and The Way of Knowingness, The Intuitive Path to Your Spiritual Destiny. She lives in Houston with her husband and their 2 children, and you'll find her online at KimO'NeillPsychic.com. Kim, thank you so much for joining us today on Reflections.
Oh, Brent, thank you. It is a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Kim, I wanted to start with a question, a little bit about your background information for any of our listeners who's not totally familiar with your line of work. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about what you do as a psychic channel and a spiritual lifestyle coach?
Absolutely. I have been conducting private channeling sessions for clients from around the world for almost 29 years. And I've also written books, and these books are geared toward helping people develop their own intuitive ability. And I also conduct workshops and online classes. And my greatest joy is teaching other people how to develop their own ability to communicate with their guardian angels. And of course, I conduct sessions 5 days a week, private sessions for people who want specific information about their lives and who they are and why they're here. And so I have been doing this almost 29 years.
Excellent. And you have a wonderfully unique story, and I say unique, but really now that I think about it, there's probably so many people who relate to this story of you have a background coming from a corporate background, and there was a time in your life when you shifted that and you shifted to the path that you're currently on as a psychic channeler. I'm curious, can you tell us a little bit about how that came about? It's such a cool story that you wrote about in your book.
Oh, thank you for asking. It was an amazing time in my life. I had just gotten a divorce, and I was partnering in an advertising agency that was going bankrupt. And it was a very frightening, scary, lonely time. I had no friends, and I worked, 12, 14-hour days. And I knew that I was going to move on to something else, but I had no idea what. I had no idea where. I didn't have any idea what my skills were. All I knew was writing advertising copy and writing TV commercials and radio commercials. And so I was sobbing at my desk one evening, and I thought, I just can't go on. I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't stay where I am, but I can't go on either because I don't know what direction to go in. And I remember going home to my little apartment with my cat, and I'd gotten Chinese carry-out, and I got my little dinner ready, and I just sat on the couch, and movement caught my eye. And I lived alone in this little apartment, and I looked, and to my astonishment, this spirit appeared, and things like that just didn't happen to me. And I looked, and my mouth dropped open, and while I'm in complete shock, I thought I was losing my mind. My cat Winston runs over to the spirit and starts rubbing on his legs, and he appeared tangibly. He looked like a spirit that was dressed like from the late 19th century, and I've been teased about this a lot on TV, but he was a dead ringer for a young Alec Baldwin. And I'm sitting on my couch, and I'm looking, and my fork is just suspended as I'm staring at him, and he starts to talk to me, and I really thought I was losing my mind. And I wrote about this in the book, The Calling, and we got into this conversation, and I thought I've gone nutty. So this spirit told me that he was one of my angels, and he had come to me so tangibly because I wasn't hearing him, and he knew I needed help, and he was sent to help me. And so he started talking about things that were true, and he remained with me. Long story short, he remained with me day after day after day, and telling me things that were going to happen that I completely disregarded, and then they would. And this information that he gave me was so on target and spot on. I knew that there had to be something to this, and I knew, Brent, that this was not coming from my brain. I knew that. And so I started to believe, because this spirit, whose name was John, kept giving me information and was at my side and really helped me change my life completely, helped me understand what my life's work was, how to get into it. When he told me I was going to be a channel, I didn't even know what that was. I thought a channel is something on a radio or a TV set. And I had no clue. And he said, well, you're going to be a psychic. And I thought that was the funniest thing in the world. I was a serious businesswoman. It took me years to build my reputation in the very conservative Houston business community. And we're talking back in the 1980s. And he said, this is what you're going to do, and I'm going to help you, and you're going to be providing information to other people just like I've provided information to you. And I remember thinking how funny it was until I realized he was serious. And I realized, well, I had to get out of what I was doing. And I was so scared and so miserable that I thought, oh my gosh, maybe I've got everything to gain and nothing to lose. So the first thing he had me do, interestingly enough, was go on this big radio show in Houston, KRBE, one of the major stations, top 40 stations here. And he told me, what you're going to do is get on the show, and you're going to be providing little snippets of information for callers. And I said, but I don't know how to do that. I have no idea. All I've been doing is listening to you and getting information for me from you. He said, don't worry about it. You can do it. Just do what I tell you to do. And so I went to the station, and they had me on, and I remember sitting there, and Brent, it was so amazing. I'd never done anything like that before. And I was sitting in this big control room, and the disc jockeys were there, and they said, okay, Kim, you're on. This is our psychic extraordinaire, Kim O'Neill, and she's here to provide information, and we've got the phone lines buzzing. And I'm sitting there, and my face, I know, was blood red. Thank God nobody could see me on the radio. I was terrified. And I thought, what am I going to do if this doesn't work? And I heard John inside my head telepathically, and he said, everything's going to be fine. And so, we're taking the first caller now. Caller 1, what is your question for Kim? And right before we went on the air, the disc jockey told me, Kim, now you've got 40 seconds per person because we have to keep it moving really quickly. And I thought, oh my God. Okay, 40 seconds. How do I know how long 40 seconds is? And how do I know how long it's going to take me to get the information? So the caller asked her question, and miracle of miracles, I heard the information inside my head, and John just said, repeat after me. So I repeated the information, and I heard from the listener, oh, that's exactly right. Oh, Kim, you're amazing. That's exactly, oh my gosh, how did you know? And I'm sitting there, oh my God, I was just in wonder. And so it just kind of went on from there. And then I after that show, they asked me to be a regular guest. And I was on that radio station for, I think, 2 years, 3 years as their psychic in residence. Once a week, I was on the program. And after that first time, when I became more confident that, yes, I would get information, and yes, I could channel for someone who wasn't right in the room with me, and I could channel for another person, it became hugely fun. And John was right. My angel was right. It just took off from there. And I started getting phone calls for sessions, and I moved into a tiny little postage stamp office, but it was all my own. And it was the most thrilling time. And then I started receiving information from other people's guardian angels for them. And I started writing books, and it was a number of years before I had the courage to conduct workshops in person. I was a very just unbelievably shy person, and the thought of getting up in front of people, I would have rather had a bad case of Ebola. So little by little, I got out of my comfort zone, and I continued to do new and different things, and it took forever, but I started developing a little more confidence, and I really began to adore passing along the information to others to help provide the guidance and direction that my angel John had provided me. And that was almost 29 years ago, and it still today is as much fun for me as it was when I first started. It still is as fresh, because we all have issues, we all have struggles, and we all have questions about, why am I here? Who am I? I don't know. I don't know where I can go get the information. My life feels stagnant, or I want to move forward. How do I do that? Do I have anything to look forward to? What is my life's work? What's going on with my health? What's going on with my relationships? Am I ever going to meet a romantic soulmate? So these are all the questions that I'm answering on a day-to-day basis. Well, I'm not answering, their guardian angels are answering, and I'm presenting the information as a conduit. And so it's quite an amazing process. Brent, if you were to ask me, what is the most amazing spiritual experience you've had so far in your life after you've been in your life's work all these years? I'd have to say that late evening in my tiny little living room, right after my divorce, when my life seemed just as terrible as it could be, and having John, my angel, appear tangibly. And since people have read the book, The Calling, they've said, Kim, does John have a brother? Or, Kim, is there any way I can get my angels to appear tangibly to me as well? So it's an amazing process that we're all here to contribute to.
Excellent. Wow, thank you for sharing that, Kim. And what I really love about your story is it's unique, but it's also very relatable. So many times I'll have guests on the show who are a medium or a channel or doing some form of psychic work, and they talk many times about having this gift from birth. So it's kind of a breath of fresh air to have somebody who it's very relatable to have your life of coming through the corporate world, and then all of a sudden to just shift paths and to have the faith and the patience and the strength to take a different path. So thank you so much for sharing that, because it's so refreshing to hear a different story.
Oh, and Brent, thank you so much. But I have to tell you, I had no patience, I had no strength, I had no courage. I was just so frightened and scared to death about where I was, and I knew I had to move on, and I just literally didn't know what else to do, and I knew I couldn't stay where I was. And here I have this spirit that's calling himself an angel, encouraging me, and I felt like I had no other choice. So it took me years to build any of those things. And you know what I've learned? I think it's funny, and I think being on the earthly plane, it's very important to have a sense of humor. I find it funny because, and I talk to my audiences about this, that our angels are always prompting us to get out of our existing comfort zone and move to the next step. And when they do that, it's very frightening. And we think, well, but I don't have any confidence to do anything that's unfamiliar or different than what I'm doing now, even though I'm not happy with where I'm now. I don't have any confidence to do that. And our angels will always say, but you can't be confident about something you haven't done yet. And so, like Martin Luther King Jr. once said, you don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step. And so what I've learned, and it's taken me all these years, but I guess better late than never, what I've learned is that when we get prompted to move forward, that's going to give us something to look forward to. That's going to help build our feelings of accomplishment and achievement because we're doing something new. And unless we're doing something different than what we're doing now, our life is going to seem very stagnant. How can you expect to experience different things every day if you keep doing the same thing that you've always been doing? And so, I hear this every day from my clients, but I'm afraid to move forward, or I'm afraid that other people won't like it or won't accept it or will ostracize me. And Brent, when I left the advertising agency and I opened my channeling practice, that was one of my issues, really being invested in what other people think, feel, and approve and endorse. And I think most of we human beings want to be liked by other people and want to be accepted. And it took me so many years to build my reputation as a businesswoman. And little did I know I was leaving all that behind. And I remember, I wish I saved it. There was this scathing article that came out about me, written in the Houston Business Journal, about how Kim O'Neill was leaving the ad agency and the partnership she was in, moving on to this, the writer called it some kind of woo 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 kind of business, and really poking fun at me. And I thought, well, now I'm humiliated in front of all of Houston, and it took me a lot of years not to care about what other people think, because if we're really invested in what other people think, feel, approve, and endorse, we'll never be able to experience what it means to be who we are. And I know that sounds simplistic, but some things, Brent, how we can know something intellectually, and I've heard that a million times, yes. But then when we know it inside of ourselves, that's something totally different.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think Rumi said that best when he said to know only love intellectually is probably the biggest tragedy out there. And Kim, I want to move on a little bit to another topic. You talked a bit about what your clients come to you for. What are the most common concerns? I'm curious, what have you found in working with your clients over the years to be the biggest hindrance to an individual's kind of spiritual growth and connection to the angelic realm?
The major topic that I believe has the most impact on someone's life, two things. Number one, from my perspective, first and foremost, is life's work. What were they born to do? What kind of work is going to make their heart and soul sing? And if somebody is already in their life's work, they know. So
Right.
Life's work, number one. And number two, issues. And issues represent different forms of human experience. And some folks are working on commitment. Some folks are working on approval and endorsement, caring what other people think. Oh, a lot of people are working on setting and maintaining their boundaries, or saying no comfortably, or if an individual is here to be a spiritual teacher in whatever regard they're going to be carrying that out in, if they're here to be a spiritual teacher and facilitate for other people, help people move forward, it can be very difficult for them to choose not to enable, you see. So number one, Brenda, it would have to be life's work. And number two, issues, because once we realize that our guardian angels are all around us, trying to provide us information constantly about who we are, what we could and should be doing, and when, and we start being able to hear that, and we start listening in a little bit of a different way, and trusting that our angels are around us, and that we have the ability as human beings to not only hear them, but to understand what they're trying to convey. And once we turn that corner, then our lives just start moving forward like crazy. So I channel for a lot of physicians who will ask about diagnoses for patients. I channel for attorneys who ask about court cases and judges. I channel for entrepreneurs who ask about investments. I channel for school teachers, college professors, stay-at-home dads, rabbis and priests and nuns, ministers. So there's such a cross-section of people that I'm privileged to channel for, but yet no matter where someone lives around the world, no matter what they do or how much influence they have, are they someone who is really unaware of what they can and should be doing, and maybe they're doing something that's very unfulfilling for them, and perhaps they're in between jobs, or it could be the president of a country. It's fascinating how we all have so much in common. And I know as human beings, it's interesting to us and common for us to contrast and compare ourselves with others. And what I've learned, Brent, is that we all have so much in common, and it's very heartwarming to me. And it's especially poignant when I talk to people and they're incredibly lonely. And sometimes people are so lonely not because they don't have a lot of people around them, or they're not working around a lot of people, or they don't have big families, but it can be because they don't have anyone in their lives who, number one, can see them for who and what they are, and number two, when someone gets on their spiritual trajectory, and we're learning and we're growing and we're starting to be more mindful of our dreams, and we're we're questioning, why did this happen? And why is that person in my life? And then we start looking back wondering, wow, I understand now that I went through that big challenge to help get me where I am now. So where am I going? And we start connecting all these dots. It's really fulfilling to build relationships with other people who are themselves on their spiritual trajectory, no matter where they are on that trajectory. And so sometimes people feel lonely because they haven't yet made what I call spiritual friends with whom they can talk about all of this. And it was also really lonely for me when I'm, in essence, living with John, my angel, and I felt so isolated because here I'm seeing this spirit nobody else can see. I'm hearing him talking inside my head, and nobody else could hear him. And so it was quite lonely until I started discussing things with people. It was amazing. When I was still at the ad agency, when this was starting, I remember my partner saying, Kim, please don't say anything to anybody. They'll think you're crazy. You need therapy and medication. Please don't mention this to anyone. And I remember being in a couple of client meetings with bankers and people in big oil companies that we worked for, that our agency did advertising for and helped them with ads and their all their corporate stuff. It was really interesting how when I would bring that up, I'd have somebody lean toward me and say, they look around, they say, do you believe in that stuff? I do. In fact, I've been hearing this voice inside my head, or I had this dream, and it was amazing to me, Brent, how many people have these experiences, just like you said, who perhaps might not share it with anybody else, afraid that other people are going to think they're crazy, when in fact so many folks have this experience. And I think it's becoming more and more common for folks to talk about things, because these days, we're blogging, we've got an international community online, and people, it's such a smaller world than it used to be. Something can happen across the world and everybody knows about it, 5-10 seconds later, literally. So I think that these days it's so important for people to understand that there's so many other folks who are experiencing what they are, and they will be able to contribute as much as they're supposed to the earthly plane if they look at other people as fellow comrades, fellow travelers on the earthly plane, where we look at people inclusively rather than exclusively. So, did I answer your question?
Absolutely. You did, yeah. That was excellent. Thank you, Kim. I'm curious you talked a lot about how your own personal struggles were very intense at the time when this was coming up. When John had first introduced himself to you and you were working with him, you said you found it very difficult. And I think a lot of our listeners can relate to that because they're having their own unique spiritual experiences right now, as we all are. And it's hard to kind of digest it and make sense of it, and then also to move forward and find out what the message that's contained within it is. So I'm curious, for all our listeners out there who may be going through their own unique experiences right now, what would you offer them as advice, as maybe a daily practice to help strengthen that connection to the angelic realm?
Oh, Brent, I love your question. Okay. What I recommend is this. First of all, each one of us is as individual as a snowflake, and we all have what I call a destiny or a spiritual blueprint that it's a path that we're supposed to be following, and we're all very, very individual when it comes to who we are and what we are supposed to be experiencing and contributing on the earthly plane at any given time. And so because we have this destiny, it's amazing. Every day that we wake up, we might want to say to ourselves, today's going to be a life-changing day. And every day is a life-changing day because every day that we wake up, we have a series of choices to make. And even if we feel our lives are stagnant or there's nothing new. Every day is a lockstep version of the day before. That's not exactly completely true. So every day we have a series of decisions to make. Some of the decisions, a lot of the decisions are really, really small, like, am I going to, go for coffee today? Well, I was going to start eating healthier. Well, maybe I'll do that tomorrow. And then we're giving information to the universe by making that choice. Well, this person isn't quite ready to make those healthier choices, so this person isn't that ready to really move forward then with other opportunities to come in front of them. And so we don't realize how many choices we make on a day-to-day basis. And the choices that we make today will affect our lives tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So if we think about it, where we are now is a reflection of all of the choices we've made from birth up into this point in time. And so all the choices that we continue to make on a day-to-day basis will determine how quickly we move forward and what opportunities come in front of us. So what do we do? How do we make these choices? How do we know what the right choices are to make? And that's why we have guardian angels. So we all have a spiritual blueprint, a template of what we're supposed to achieve in our lives. And then we have guardian angels around us to help us remember what that is and to help us on a day-to-day basis figure out what we can and should be doing that day. So in essence, what our angels are doing is whispering in our ear, okay, now do this. Okay, now do that. Okay, now call that person. Okay, go and do this. Go clean that out. Go buy this. Go work on this. And we often think we're talking to ourselves. So what I think is what can be most life-changing to folks is, number one, realizing, oh my gosh, I do have all these choices to make on a day-to-day basis. I need to be more mindful about what I'm choosing. Number two, how do I make these choices? What do I do? I wasn't born with a manual that will allow me to day 5054 and go to that and read. So to recognize that we have angels, and then to recognize that they're talking a blue streak typically to all of us. And if I could share something with you, Brent, I wanted to share this with you and our listeners. This is an email that I got from a client recently, and I conducted a session for her. And I always get permission, of course, before I share anything from a client. But she emailed me and she said, I must say that at the time of our session, I was rather uptight about the whole angels speaking to us thing. Since then, things in my life have begun to flow rather beautifully. I realized that they had been speaking the whole time. It was my ability to let go and listen with all my parts that was the key, an ability to interpret what I hear. It is lovely to be in their presence fully. So, Brent, it's a matter of folks trusting in the fact that they have a very important destiny that will impact the earthly plane, that they have angels around them who are there to guide them and direct them, and that here's something that sometimes we lose sight of. We all have abundance that is just waiting for us to get to that point in our lives to achieve it. So we have abundance just waiting for us. So in other words, if someone was born to be an author and they write a book, and they will receive the abundance once they've written that book, or whenever someone gets into their life's work or they work through an issue, there's rewards. And so, it's that old adage, if you do the work, you get the rewards. And I love to say that on the earthly plane, everything is so simple. We do the work, we get the rewards. The work, meaning we work through our issues, we figure out who we are, and we become that. So on the earthly plane, everything is so simple, but it's just not easy, because most people have a struggle even after they get into their life's work. there's struggle on the earthly plane, and it's a matter of dealing with struggle and reframing it. And so when struggle emerges, and most of us have lots of different struggle, we have to ask ourselves, okay, why am I experiencing this? And what am I supposed to learn? How can I learn what I'm supposed to as quickly as possible so I can get beyond this particular struggle? So for those of us who were or are in the process of the same struggle that we just can't seem to move beyond, it's just that the lesson that we're supposed to learn hasn't been completely learned yet. And so it's really simple, but it's just having this understanding of there's a reason for everything, and asking when things happen, why did that happen? And then our angels are right there to explain to us.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Kim, I want to shift gears just a little bit here to make sure that we get a chance to talk about this. You are a featured presenter at the upcoming A.R.E conference, and this one is entitled How to Talk with Your Angels and Departed Loved Ones. It's an intensive channeling certification. And this is here at the A.R.E in Virginia Beach, and it is from January 15th through the 17th of 2016. For all our listeners, we will give them the links at the end of the show to register for that. But I'm curious, Kim, is this the first time you put on the certification program at the A.R.E?
It is, and I'm hugely thrilled about this program because I've never conducted an intensive workshop like this before. There's going to be lots of theory, lots of hands-on practice, and I've geared this very special weekend toward people who are kind of just getting going on their spiritual path, but also for people who are way down the spiritual path, and who may also and already be accomplished channels and some psychics in their own right. And so this is a program that is going to be very fast moving. It's going to be fun and exciting, and a safe environment in which folks can really work on developing their ability to communicate not only with guardian angels, but their departed loved ones, and to understand the big differences between communicating with angels and the departed. So it's going to be a very safe environment for folks, and of course at A.R.E it would be. It's going to be an event that's really going to help people better understand their own ability and how they're already channeling, whether they know it or not. The practice exercises I've created them to help folks understand how much information they're already receiving, and that tends to be one of the things that people are most surprised by. And this is going to be we start Friday evening, and then all day Saturday, and then John Van Auken is going to take over Saturday night, and then I'll be back on Sunday. So we're going to do practice exercises all 3 days, and it's really going to help build an awareness of how guardian angels communicate. The 2 big secrets to manifesting. I've discovered 2 secrets to manifesting, and if folks follow those secrets, those rules, if you will, although I don't like that word, but let's use that word. If folks follow those tenets, their manifesting is going to be successful, and they're going to really step up what they're able to achieve. But the weekend is quite different than anything I've ever done, and it's really going to help people much more tangibly connect with the spiritual beings around them and develop more confidence about, when the weekend is over, where they go back to their lives, wherever it may be around the country or around the world, to carry with them a confidence they didn't have before, to carry with them practice exercises that they can continue to do on their own, to carry with them this newfound awareness of how intuitive they already are. And in fact, a lot of folks have told me with one-day workshops that they started receiving information for friends and family as well, and then it's their choice whether they pass it along or not. But this is going to be a weekend with like beings, so all of us are together for the weekend. And I believe, Brent, that when we do this work together in a group like this, it really accelerates all of our spiritual growth, and we take that camaraderie away with us after the weekend is over. So I'm quite excited about it.
Awesome. It sounds excellent. Thank you, Kim. And we'll make sure, like I said, we give our listeners all the information to register for that conference and any other conference we offer here at the A.R.E. But Kim, I want to change gears again and talk about a topic that you have such incredible insights into, especially in your book, The Way of Knowingness. And this topic for me is very near and dear as I work through it myself. And this is, of course, a topic of relationships. I'm sure our listeners are very curious about what you have to say and what you found about relationships. So I'm curious, what have you found and what can we do to better our relationships and, of course, avoid the destructive patterns that we all experience in our relationships?
Well, those are very insightful and very important questions. When we plan each of our earthly lifetimes, we also plan on interacting with certain other human beings, of course. And there's always a purpose behind every relationship. And so the key is, as we go through our lives, to ask ourselves, okay, why is this person in my life? And why did I choose my family of origin? Why did I choose this spouse? Why did I choose my siblings? And to get a better awareness of why we're interacting with certain people, because relationships are meant to be learning experiences for all of us. And sometimes we're a little bit more of the teacher in the relationship. Sometimes we're a little bit more of the student in the relationship. But all of our relationships are geared toward helping everybody involved grow and learn and expand. And so it brings up, it begs the question, so then why aren't relationships much more balanced and centered and loving and enjoyable and stress-free? Well, there's a number of reasons for that. Number one, if someone is a spiritual teacher for someone else, their spiritual student may not see them as a spiritual teacher and may want to move as far away from them as possible because they don't want to be reminded of all the work they have to do if they decided they just don't want to do the spiritual work. We also choose the individuals with whom we're going to be interacting with in the most positive way, like our soulmates. We have platonic soulmates, and platonic soulmates could be parents or children or siblings or best friends or people that we meet throughout our lives, and we feel this special, amazing, incredible, close affinity with them, and we get them. We just have this knowing about them right away. We see who they are, and they get us. We also have romantic soulmates, and these individuals are individuals with whom we can bond heart, mind, body, and soul. And a lot of folks, wonder and ask, do I have that in my future? I sure haven't had it in my past, but do I have it in my future? And so relationships really add spice to our lives, and relationships also allow us, we meet people throughout our lives who are supposed to be our teachers. And the interesting thing about that, when we have someone coming into our life who's supposed to be a teacher, we may have planned to have a warm, loving, nurturing, acknowledging, supportive spiritual teacher. And so we may be mentored or helped by another human being who's very loving toward us and nurturing and patient. But then, Brent, sometimes we choose to have teachers come into our lives who teach us with adversity and hardship and turmoil and sometimes tragedy. Now, why would we choose that? Why would we plan an earthly lifetime and deliberately choose to be in a relationship with someone who is destined to teach us through hardship and chaos and adversity? Because on the earthly plane, as human beings, we learn most quickly through adversity. So if there's an issue or a series of issues that are very important for us to resolve in a particular lifetime, and we're really keen to get those worked through, as we're planning our lifetime, we think, okay, I'm going to choose someone I've been with before in another lifetime who I know is going to bring hardship and adversity into my life. But when they do, I probably will learn, because I'll want to not escape, but I'll want to resolve. There's a difference between escaping and resolving. When we try to escape an issue, it follows us wherever we go. It's that expression, I think, where that expression came from. We can run, but we can't hide. So when we get something resolved, that difficult relationship dissolves, and we move on, unburdened with that particular hardship in any other relationships in the future. And I know I'm sharing, Brent, lots of different dynamics of relationships, but relationships help us grow, help us expand, will in many ways dictate how much we get accomplished. And other people are in our lives to help us move forward, to help us become all that we can be. And then we have to think about, well, wow, then I am in these folks' lives because I'm supposed to be of service to them in some way. How? And what can I and should I be doing for them? Can I share a funny story with you really quickly?
Yeah, of course.
Do we have time? Okay. I'm putting finishing touches on one of my issues, asking for help. And that has been a really difficult issue for me. And I won't go into, all the background, but I put finishing touches on that issue last weekend. And the way I did that, my angel said, Kim, we want you to put up the Christmas decorations. I said, this early? They said, yes. We want you to clean the house and do all these things. It was a Sunday. So my husband and children were going to be gone. They were going to a big karate meeting. And so I was going to be home, and I thought, okay, that sounds like fun. That sounds great. So I'm going from the house out into the garage to move things in, Christmas stuff. And my hubby is a nut about keeping things locked up. And so every time I would leave a door, I'd lock it. And so I came out of the garage, and there's this little building we have attached to the garage, and I'm in my pajamas, of course, hadn't even combed my hair, but nobody was going to see me. I closed the door behind me, and I realized the moment I closed the door, I locked both keys in that little room. And so I went around and about. There was no way to get in the house, and I thought, I'm locked out. I don't even have a cell phone. I have no keys for anything. How could I have done this? And I knew that it happened for a reason. And so my angel said, Kimberly, we're helping you put finishing touches on your issue of asking for help, because you're going to go to your neighbor and you're going to ask him to help you get in the house. A neighbor you've never even spoken to. And I thought, in my pajamas, I didn't even comb my hair. Really? And they said, really? So I heard him in the garage, and I trotted over there, and I didn't even know his name, I'm embarrassed to say. And I said, could you help me, please? And they said, could I please borrow your cell phone? So he said, of course. And I apologized for the way I looked. He said, oh, no, look at me. And he hadn't shaved, and I thought he looked darling. But anyway, so all of that to say, he ended up coming over. He said, but I'm here to be of service to you. We're neighbors. Of course I will do this for you. And he said, and my wife, and he gave me your name, and then his two daughters, and he said I would help you with anything. This is someone I'd never even met before. And he ended up taking a crowbar and breaking in, and without breaking a window or breaking a door. And he was the nicest, the sweetest, the most amazing. And he thanked me for allowing him to help me. And I'm still, that's been, 5 days ago? And I'm still on cloud 9, having had that experience. It's just so amazing. So in any case, the universe, and he was such a wonderful teacher for me, and a kind, gentle, loving teacher. And I caught him when he was busy, and he made that time to do that for me. And he said, is there anything else I can do for you? So we're all here to be of service to each other, and our angels help guide us, protect us. And it's a matter of understanding why certain people are in our lives, as you ask about relationships, and how other people are here to be of service to us, how we're to be of service to them, and how we look at one another as just fellow travelers. So thank you for letting me share that little story.
Love that story. Thank you for sharing, Kim. Kim, I have a couple wrap-up questions here. I'm curious, as a seeker and one who has dedicated decades of your professional life to being of service, as you said, to others, I'm curious, personally, what has you most excited as you look forward into the future, and also what's going on around you? What has you most excited?
Two things. Well, I get excited about the towels hanging in my bathroom, so I'm excited all the time about everything. But what excites me most is the awareness. It's my belief that so many more people around the world are embracing getting their answers about who they are and why they're here, looking inward, and also developing more of an awareness of all of this help that's open to them on a spiritual level with their guardian angels or their departed loved ones, and how we are thinking more altruistically about protecting others. A good example, those three Americans who were in the Parisian train, and one saw what he knew to be someone who was going to create a lot of malfeasance, and he asked the other two buddies of his to jump up and take care of it, and they did. And it goes back to that question, how is today going to be a life-changing day for me? And when those three guys got on that train, they were thinking, well, in about 15 minutes, we're all going to be heroes. And yet, they didn't have to make that choice. So I'm really excited about how the world is viewing itself as being more protective with each other and watching out for each other a lot more. And in addition to that, Brian, I'm working on a new program that it's going to be an interview program where I go out and interview folks who are making a difference in the way that they're here to make a difference. Not everybody is here to change the whole world, but it might be said that when we make one small change, it does change the world in another part of the world. But anyway, I'm going to be acknowledging and profiling other folks who are themselves being who they are, understanding more of their destiny, moving forward with courage and determination. And I am so excited about that. I sometimes can hardly sleep at night. So.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Kim. Well, Kim, that's all the time we have for the show today, but I want to thank you so much for joining us, and it's always such a pleasure and an honor to have you on, and it's just such a delight, too. We have so many guests on the show over the years, and you are such a bubbly, bright light for us to have on the show, so I thank you. You are truly excited about what you do, and that continues to show over the years, so thank you so much, Kim.
And thank you for having me. Thank you, and I want to send my thoughts and wonderful good wishes to all of our listeners and viewers. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, Kim, thank you so much for being on the show. Take care.
Bye.
Don't forget, Kim is a feature presenter at the new conference, How to Talk with Your Angels and Departed Loved Ones, Intensive Channeling Certification. This is at the A.R.E. headquarters in Virginia Beach and will take place from January 15th through the 17th of 2016. A certificate of completion will be awarded following this hands-on workshop with special guest, Cayce expert John Van Auken. If you'd like to register for this and other world-class conferences and workshops offered here at the Association for Research and Enlightenment, you can visit our website at edgarcayce.org/conferences. To check out any of our past shows you may have missed, or to keep up to date on our upcoming guests on the show, you can check out our website at edgarcayce.org/radio. On behalf of everyone here at the Association for Research and Enlightenment and moretalk.tv, I'm your host, Brenton Bickerstaff, reminding you to always find time throughout your day to do what you love most, even if that means thinking back to your childhood to remember what that is. As each individual spends time daily doing what they truly love to do, that creates an energy that ripples out into the world, helping to make the world truly a better place to live in. Hope everyone has an incredible week, and I thank you so much for tuning in to Reflections, the Wisdom of Edgar Cayce. I'll see everyone next week. Much love.